Welcome everybody to another episode of the Career Talks podcast. I say it every time. I am your host. My goal really is to build the number one live stream podcast on LinkedIn. So that's a passion and a vision of mine, and I can only do that through you folks watching, and plus the amazing guest that I bring to you each week to share actionable advice to help your career and life. So I don't know. These folks are just amazing. I could not do it without them. And every year, every season, this is the fourth season. So every season, the guests are just as phenomenal as the prior season. So super blessed to connect with these folks on this platform. But before we get started, I'm sure you've seen the flyer. You know who I have. If you don't know who she is, you will know today. She is an amazing coach. But this episode quickly is sponsored by the Career Accelerator Planner. It's a planner that my partner and I, Karen Turner, put together. It's designed for the corporate professional, so you can track your performance, your wins, your projects all in one place. So when it comes time for those crucial conversations around career growth, merit increase, salary, performance, anything like that, or you're looking to transition from one company to the next, or need to get your resume boosted up, you have all the projects and wins that you've done in that one place. So you're not leaving your intellectual property behind in the company you sat with or transitioning from. So you can jump to the careeracceleratorplanner.com and grab yourself a copy. We'll also shortly here have a digital form. It'll be a fillable PDF form where you can also do the same thing. All right. So this young lady, if you don't know her, Linda Gardner, she is also killing it on IG. If you definitely go to her IG page and you'll see all the phenomenal career coaching tips she's providing you. So let's bring her to the forefront. I look forward to this conversation about getting unstuck. Let's go, Miss Linda. How are you?
Thanks for having me on, and hi everybody for tuning in. Awesome.
Absolutely. Now I forgot. I was about to say you're in California or Canada. Which one?
Canada.
Canada. That's right. That's right.
Toronto,
Awesome.
Canada. Yeah.
Now there's a lot of people that I've had. I wouldn't say a lot, but a good number of folks in Canada, coaches that are doing phenomenal work. So you're probably my fourth or fifth guest that are just
Oh.
something's in the water out there that's meeting all you great career coaches. So I hats off to Canada for putting together such a phenomenal group of coaches out there. So share with folks more about Linda Gardner, your background, your company, your business, etc.
Of course. So a little bit about me. I'm a licensed HR professional who turned to a career coach, and recently, my third year of business now as a founder of Your Next Career, Linda. And what really sparked my business 3 years ago was the fact that started helping out friends and family. I obviously have over 10 years of being in recruitment in HR, and having the drive and motivation to help others succeed. And working in corporate, because I've done recruiting in an agency in a corporate world, I felt the need to do more. And you can relate to this, Orlando. When you're working for an employer, you're obviously working for the employer, so you're more pro-employee. But when I started my business, I felt the need to help more candidates, more clients out there, and just kind of help them land that successful job. And it really stemmed for me because of my own experience. I was stuck for odd times throughout my career, and I feel like if I had known someone who can kind of pull me out of the rut and get me out of where I was, it would have been a lot smoother transition. So that's where my business stemmed from. And yeah, I've been doing it since and helping a lot of folks out there, predominantly women, and started my one-on-one coaching business and coaching program late last year. So I run an 8-week private coaching program as well, and met so many phenomenal women along the way, and it's just so rewarding. It's been a great journey today. Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it. So you touched on something that you made a good point about being in the corporate space and working, having that mindset of for the employer first. And that sometimes when I led teams, I had to educate them to say, hey, I call it the case management kind of mindset, to where A case manager will have a stack of cases they need to work through, but they can get really attached to it. As a HR professional in that space, you really couldn't. But now as an entrepreneur, you can pick and choose who you want to support and help out, which is phenomenal. So, a question around the model of your business. You mentioned predominantly women. Was that the plan initially, or just it just happened by osmosis?
To be honest, it was helping all sorts of ages and all sorts of group of people, and it just start to stem me where I felt a lot of women, particularly women in their mid careers, or moms, I guess, because I showcase a lot of my mom side of stories on IG and LinkedIn as well. That there's a lot of women out there who are just feeling stuck, especially when they're coming back from maternity leave or some kind of leave where they feel that they need that extra confidence, extra boost to get back out there. So I just felt like that's a story that I could share and be able to relate to a lot of the communities, the women out there. So that's where it's kind of steer. Like I mean, like being an
Hmm.
entrepreneur, sometimes you're when you're passionate about something and it just kind of steer you in that direction. So that's where it's been going so far. And yeah, I mean, it's been great in helping a lot of women get back on their feet. Again, predominantly if they've been returning from maternity leave or they've been laid off or they just kind of need that extra boost. I feel
Hmm.
like that's something that I can be that voice for them and just kind of coach and guide them along the way.
Awesome, awesome. So
Mhm.
we're talking about getting unstuck.
Yeah.
Obviously, we chatted prior to through the email, and you said this was something that some of your clients, most of your clients, are coming to you for. So how did that come about to where now you kind of have a program? And correct me if I'm wrong, but what are you seeing from your clients now that where are they stuck at? Because I'm sure this could appeal to most everybody. Where did
Yes.
that stem from?
So what it stems from is I feel the women that I speak to, I guess, based on over the 3 years, is just women who are, again, mentioned if they have a bit of break in the career or
Mhm.
if they've been in a role for 15, 20 years, not just a role boss. And I've seen this in the corporate side as well, because if you aren't in control of your career, you essentially are, having the employer being the driver's seat of your career. I've seen it so many times, and I'm sure you can see it in your career where they'll shift people back and forth. And if you don't have a defined career path, they'll shift you wherever they feel the need to fill that position. And I've seen women who are, again, further in their career, 15, 20 years, even
Mm,
in HR, like you assume in HR, you would have more control of your career, but it comes down to what you want out of your career at the end of the day. So feeling that you've been in that position for 10, 15 years or so, and you don't know what the next step, because you've been not in control, your employer's been shifting you back and forth based on their needs. So I feel like that's an area of target where becoming the voice for the women and just helping them getting back on their feet, whether, and it's not just a matter of a resume fix up or a LinkedIn optimization. Like I go much deeper in that because anybody can go to a consultant and get a resume fix and LinkedIn these
right.
days. But it
Mhm.
goes a lot deeper than that. And that's where it's ingrained into my 8-week program. So what I teach is give you already an idea of what I teach in the beginning of my program is called Ikigai. It's basically a concept where it refers back to the purpose of your life. So if you want to go back into the interest when it talks about your purpose, when relating to your passion, your interest, your motivation, different areas like that. So it goes a lot deeper to figure out, the next step of my career, is it just going to be another project management role? Like, do
Mm,
I want to be able to dig deeper and, find an other side of me? Because most of people are multi-passionate. They just don't know what step to take. And they're afraid because I feel like, with things going on the last 2, 3 years, it's been uncertain for a lot of people,
right.
and people are afraid to make that next move because, yeah, I mean, the pandemic has hit a lot of people a lot of different ways, and that's also another motivation that I started my business because a lot of people were impacted. All around the world, specifically in North America, I felt like there's my skills that's needed to require to be able to help fill that next step, which is why I launched my program and be able to help those within that area who are struggling.
Now, spell the name of that. You said a keto or
Ikigai. So
okay. Ikigai. Oh, you're good. Yeah, it
Essentially,
froze a little bit, but you're fine.
sorry about that.
Okay, awesome. So, with the level of candidates, or should I say clients that you're working with, you said 15 years in the business, 20 years. What are some things that you're seeing that they're stuck in? Is it they don't know if they want to stay in the industry? They're not sure if they want to go up in levels. Where are some areas that folks are getting stuck that you notice based on your clientele?
I find that a lot of them are being stuck in the industry. So
Mm,
they're 10, 15 years stuck in healthcare. I mean, healthcare is a wide range, a wide industry right now because either it's in it for you or not. Um, Clients of mine have want to remove themselves and be able to tap into other industry just because they're burnt out. So, having them going through this exercise and going through this program, I mean, that's a great way for them to just dig deeper in that sense. But I find the shift is moving towards leaving the industry because now that, and I find that at least a lot of my clients during the pandemic, it was a really great time for them to assess their career situation.
hmm
It's just if they are able to make the move, affordability wise and demand wise, to making sure their skill sets are sharpened enough to make the pivot. That is something that they have been shifting to. They're just confused, and that's why they've been so stuck because not how they can bridge the gap. So we have these acquired skills. So what I teach them is having them take a stock of their of their inventory. So essentially taking a status of their career and seeing what skills they have and helping them bridge the next step. And that looks so different for everybody, different stage of their career, different age, different group of people, and just helping them bridge the gap in order to make that career pivot. So a lot of them have been making pivots, at least the clientele that I've been dealing with,
hmm
and just being there to support them because we know it doesn't happen overnight, especially if you've been in that industry for 10, 15 years. That's all you know. And a lot of them having to step out of their comfort zone. Because if you've been ingrained in the healthcare field, for instance, one of my clients have worked in the medical field for 10, 15 years, that's all she knows. And she
Right.
really wants to tap into the construction industry for this particular client. And she just doesn't know how, but she has all the skills. That it's just a matter of presenting your brand to target where you and which companies, which industry, and what field you want to target. So it's just a matter of helping them bridge that to get them unstuck. Because essentially, if they're going to rebrand themselves into a different company, they're still going to be stuck within the same field. They're not going to be in a different role or different. There may be a different role, but
hmm
the same industry, and just a matter of different, yeah, industry.
Yeah, I think correct me if I'm wrong, and give me your opinion as well. That's the toughest switch, is to make an industry switch, because it's a combination of industry and skill set too. So it's like a double kind of whammy, where you're going from healthcare, like you said, to construction. My mind would never think that, right? So
Yeah,
that's very interesting. How are you, like, what are the first things you're talking to the clients when they come to you and saying, "Hey, Linda, this is what I want to do. Been in this role, whether they're a nurse or an administrative in the healthcare field, and I want to go here." What's your first steps to kind of walk them through to make sure, one, they're thinking it through, and two, um, it's something they're really passionate about, and that they're not looking at it just like a monetary gain or something.
of course, yeah. And it's definitely so what it's great that you brought that up because it's beyond the monetary gain because right
hmm
now they're looking for that next step that's going to be fulfilling. Because
hmm
if it's a monetary gain, they can just make their move on their own and hope that they would land in the IT job. But the key is not just the key is to be as strategic as possible and build a career path for them. So we sit down, have our conversations, we go through the Ikigai method, and essentially it's broken down to four different categories. Includes passions, vocation, there is interest and profession, I believe. There's four, and they cover the four different areas. We do a complete brain dump. So we're going to scrap everything. In a perfect world, take out the monetary amount, take out the job stability amount, take out all of that. What is it that you want to do and see yourself in the long term? So we're doing all that brain dump to figure out what is it they want to make that move and be able to, and then the next step would be able to figure out what is the current skill set they have. So if they want to be able to move into, again, my client in healthcare who is a research coordinator wanting to move project manager construction,
Mm.
like you said, it's like, woo, two different ends, right? So the skills that she has would be people skills, communications. I'm sure she's done project management, but she probably doesn't picture herself as a project manager because she's
Hmm.
dealing with different, different clients, different patients. But we want to make those skills transferable and highlight that because now we are rebuilding her brand and be able to, when she's doing this exercise and doing her brain dump, she'll be able to, assess what is it she has, what it takes to get those acquired skills, what needs to be upgraded, and in terms of what she needs, what skills or qualifications or license she needs to acquire to get to that position. And it's always multiple step. It's not like your next job, you might be a project manager right away. You may have to go to, starting off with a specialist, a coordinator, then transition. But the key is to look at it um, um, on a long-term goal and be able to work towards that. And that's how you're going to see and build confidence to get unstuck. Because if you don't have that career path, you're going to be at a lost cause and just, being a hamster and treading on the wheel and just figuring out
Mm.
what am I doing next. So the key is to build that career map with them and to be able to figure out how can I bridge that? How many years will it take me to get my PMP license? What experience would I need to be able to tap into the construction industry? So yeah, it's like a full on.
No, that's good. That's really good because I think that's a your structure and your program has it's not just okay like you said there earlier at the top of the call was let me just spruce up your resume or your LinkedIn profile and pat you on your back and say good luck in your transition. I brought some of your project management skills to the front, but it's deeper because this is a life changing decision you're making where your income can potentially drop in the beginning because you're changing industries and fields. Like you said, you're not going to have a not necessarily there's some that do that don't where you're having a lateral income switch, but in a brand new industry. So that's good that you're breaking down for really for them to do a self assessment
Mhm.
and say, you know what, Linda, this is probably not what I thought, or yeah, I think I want to dive deeper. So in that breakdown, when you're doing the career mapping, how much homework are you giving them for them to that sounds like a good spot, good
Yeah.
question. So how much homework are you giving them to say, hey, you're coming to me to help you, but how much have you done to make sure this is the right move for you?
It's funny you brought that up because when I built this program, because originally when I started my business, I did provide the resume revamp, LinkedIn optimization. So a lot of the bulk of the work was on me. So you pay
Mhm.
me for a service and I do it for you. But things have changed now. So the program is built for the clients. So they have to know what they're getting their involved in, what they're getting involved in with. So it doesn't matter me doing the work for you. I'm the coach. I will be guiding and providing recommendations and guidance and answering some of your questions. But you have to be willing to do the work. So there is homework on a weekly basis. There's a task assigned after each lesson. So over the course of 8 weeks, they are spending anywhere an hour to 4 hours on the assignment, depending how often or how much they want to put into it. At the end of the day,
Wow.
I tell them, like, I'm here for you. Utilize me for 8 weeks. If you're going through an interview, if you're going through a job search, if you're struggling in other areas, utilize me for 8 weeks. I'm here for you. I'm your personal career cheerleader, is what I tell them. So it depends what their motivation is. And obviously, in the beginning of the program, I do an assessment to see if, as much as I'm a fit for, as much as like, we want to make sure we're a fit for each other.
Right.
So there's just like, much like an interview, right? You're interviewing the client's interviewing you. So we want to make sure there's a fit there to make sure that I'm not carrying all the workload throughout the 8 weeks, because essentially I'm just doing all the work and you're not going to get the results you want because you haven't done anything, or you haven't done much as that this expectation of the program. So when I'm assessing my prospects, I want to make sure that's a fit for the program and myself, and vice
Hmm.
versa. So there is homework behind each session, and I lay out with the itinerary of the program, essentially what is inclusive within the program, what's expectations. And yeah, so far, you get some odds ends, you get some really good clients who are just in there really gung ho about it and everything. And then you have some you just got to push a little bit. But at the end of the day, the materials there, I'm here, the resources there, and yeah, it's just a matter of how much do they want it for themselves. At the end of the day, that's what they got to ask themselves.
So have you come across where candidates or clients, I keep saying candidates, but clients are like, whoa, I didn't know that. And they kind of shifted or say, you know what, I think I'm gonna pause and stay where I'm at because the work ahead is not what I anticipated. Like, what are some expectations you're setting with them to before you kind of dive in? Let me make sure I frame this correctly. So, as you're in the screening process with your client,
Mhm.
what are those expectations that you're setting so they understand, like, hey, this is not a me do it for you kind of, you just stroke a check and then 8 weeks later I'm gonna find you a new opportunity. It's here's what you should expect in this 8 week journey in this current climate. What does
Mhm.
that look? What do those conversations
So this
sound like?
conversation, yeah, it's a great point. The conversation obviously starts at the beginning before they sign on, before everything. So usually I do like a 30-minute, can go up to 30, 45 consults in the beginning,
Hmm.
and just having a raw conversation, and actually showing them and giving examples of some of my past clients, like what I'm looking for in an ideal client as well. So letting them know, like, this program is driven by the clients. I'm here to guide and support you, but at the end of the day, you're gonna have to learn how to tailor your own resume. It's like I was telling, I'm very upfront about it because I really don't want to waste their time, nor do I want to waste my time. I just explained to them the difference between the service I used to provide and what I currently do now. And essentially, are you willing to, rebuild your personal brand? Are you learning to, you know, tailor your resume moving forward? Are you, up for all of that? And I'll give them examples of some of the materials that I do offer. Don't give it all, but I give them some of the materials to have an idea of, what you're signing up for. And it's
Hmm.
like I'm telling you, it's straight up, it's an intense 8 weeks. And I tell them, like, I show them tough love, because essentially I want them to achieve the results at the end of the day. They may not achieve it at the end of the 8 weeks, but they're going to come out as a different person, because they're going to learn so much more than something they can just, read through a textbook, or, watch through a bunch of videos um, to learn, because I'm providing them industry experience from my 10 years and what is current and what is actually working, based on what I've dealt with other clients. So that's where I'm just giving them the raw image of everything that's going on. And again, providing some of the material, it gives them a really assessment of, is this something I can sign up for? Because
Hmm.
I've had people said, maybe this is not the right time for me. And that is a clean sin for me, because if it's not a right time, and if you're going to find, like, there's going to be a break within the 8 weeks, you stop at 4 or 5 weeks or so, that's going to be disruptive to the program. So
Right.
that's, if you have any commitments, should be outside of the 8 weeks, then this program is right for you. So yeah, I think I really work really hard to build this program. So if there's someone who's not a match, then I'll let them know, like, there's other career coaches who are great and
Right.
amazing, and I can refer you to, but maybe this is not the right program for you.
And I love your approach, which I think I've seen a few coaches do it as well now, adapting to where they're empowering their client. Again,
Mhm.
it's not like I'm gonna hand everything to you on a silver platter. Like, no, I need you to really dive in to where you can, like you said, can build your resume post my coaching, and you know what to do going forward. It's not for you to kind of hang on to the umbilical cord. It's just, I'm gonna empower you, I'm gonna train you, I'm gonna equip you, then I'm gonna send you on your way for you to go execute. So I love that approach. Love that approach. When it comes to, as you're looking deeper into the career mapping, um, what are some of the common themes? And I like to ask this question of coaches. what are some of the common themes you're seeing across your client base, where whether it's an epiphany or their struggle, or where they're, areas where they're not seeing?
I I would say the common theme across the clients that I've been working with is expecting results to happen immediately. And
Mm-hmm.
I know, I mean, you can only you can't control the market, but
Right.
you can control and be recession proof. You can be essentially protect yourself, because I always preach and I tell a lot of my clients, even on social media, that if you are not in control of your career, who is? Which is the employer. So, and I refer this back in the earlier conversation, Orlando, is that, if you put yourself and you're not in control, and where the employees are controlled, they're going to shift you back and forth. Because I've seen it so much, like through
Mm-hmm.
succession planning, through layoffs, they're going to shift you back and forth. You may be in a different bunch of roles and you don't know what you want to do. And boom, you get laid off, you get terminated, you get something happens. Do you have a leg to stand on? Will you be able to make a pivot? How will you be, I guess, in this case, recession proof, able to move that? So I find that, um, and that's where you get stuck. That could be where you get stuck again, because you
Yeah.
may be trapped in, maybe, someone who's been in you can see in their resume, like they've been in that company for 15 years, and they've been moving back and forth, and you don't really know what you are anymore, because you've been shifted around so much. And then because you think the company's going to be taking care of you, because you're in this big glorious company and nothing's going to happen to you. Because I used to have that illusion and being naive. If I
Yep.
land a Fortune 500 companies, hey, they're going to take care of me.
I'm good.
Yeah. And I've been impacted, layoff several times.
Yep.
And that's where I've learned. And that's why I'm really trying to connect with my community and tell them through my experience being laid off, being terminated as well. Like, what did I have a leg to stand on? I mean, it was not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy, but did I have the skills and the ability to jump back into a different role? And it may not be, and especially, like, I always see the silver lining of things. Like, I really struggle when I got laid off. I'm like, what did I do wrong? Like, you always
Yeah.
blame yourself,
Yep.
what I could do wrong. And then it really was an opportunity to assess the situation. Did I really like that job, or was that the field for me? So, that's a great opportunity. And that's going to be your big motivation to make a career change, career move into a different industry, role, whatever it is. The silver lining behind it is the key for my experience. And I used to tell that story over and over and over, just to give people motivation and different perspective, that it's not the end all be all. Don't take it personal. It's the business decision at the end of the day. So that's where I find that be able to relate that back to tell my story to other people, so they can learn from it. And yeah.
Love it. So when it
Mhm.
comes to, because you mentioned recession proof their career,
Mhm.
what would you say the best three tips or actionable advice for folks to start pursuing that path so they can become recession proof in essence?
Great questions. For only three tips?
Gi- give give
You only
give the
time to think.
gamut. Give the gamut. It's the floor is yours,
Um,
Linda.
so I always promote learning and not staying stagnant. So if there, and again, I'm stemming back to being multi-passionate, because I feel like in this day and age, in this digital world we live in, you got to be multi-passionate, and you got to be able to
Mm,
be diverse in different areas. So being recession proof means being current. So, skills that you are learning right now, is it current? Whether it's Excel skills, or it's Microsoft Office, or Microsoft Project, whatever it is, um, are those current enough that it's in demand if something was to happen? Now, secondly, would be, are you taking courses to sharpen some of the skills? Um, like, there's always ways you can improve yourself, whether you want an additional license or additional course, or just for your own personal interest. If someone's really interested in learning Excel expert on their own, hey, you can use it in different areas of your personal life as much as your professional life. So
mhm.
things like that. And And also, my last advice would be just to be in contact with other folks within your industry or the industry you like to tap into, or just having, scheduling coffee chats, having those conversation and reaching out to people within your community. LinkedIn is obviously a great avenue for that, and just be able to see what else is out there if something was to happen, because you want to be keeping yourself current and be ready, because anything can happen. It doesn't matter if you're a permanent role, it doesn't mean you're in the role for 15, 20 years. Doesn't matter how close you are with your managers or what it is. Um, you got to be ready if things happened, and you want to be able to protect your brand, protect yourself, and have a leg to stand on if something happens.
Love it. So,
Yes.
kind of a part two to that,
Mhm.
with getting unstuck. Do you have, your top 5 to 10 things, principles that you say, okay, here's the path to getting unstuck, making sure, which kind of goes to what you just said, right? Learning, kind of opening your network or communicating in your network in your industry there. What are some additional ones that where you're talking to the client, you're like, hey, we're about to get you unstuck, but I need you to execute on 1 through 10 or whatever that number is. What does that look
Mhm.
like?
Well, that can go through again, and I think it varies on the client and what stage they are in
Hmm.
their career. But the initial step is to, so whichever whether employed or unemployed, however it is, take an
Mm,
assessment of where they are right now and be able to dig deep. So we talked about this, not just resume fix up, LinkedIn, pass all that. That's like
right.
later stage, right? Because we don't want to fix what we don't want it. So taking a deeper dive and figuring it out, how can we get you unstuck? So you're again, if you are someone who is in the healthcare industry, like my past clients, who is a research coordinator, she wanted to move to project manager. She's looking to move that direction. What was some areas that we tackled on? So essentially figuring out, what are the skills she has, and what are the areas of weakness that we can improve on, because we want to be able to get out of that position. It's different if she wants to stay within healthcare and be able to move into a manager role or director role into that, or whichever profession she was hoping to, but she's hoping to make a successful career pivot.
Right.
So be able to figure out what is the skill set that she has and what is she wants to improve on, as well as eventually taking a stock of what she currently has to be able to make that transition. So once she has an idea, so we do a complete brain dump. We're on the call for 30 minutes or so, just taking a brain dump. And she's going to take that exercise away and be able to complete that on her own. And we're going to revisit on the next session. That's how the program works. So having an idea of what the skills currently have, and what is it takes to bridge to later down that road. So again, we're not moving the resume and cover letter. We're figuring out what kind of skills that she'll need to take. So that's where, if she wants to upgrade a skill,
Hmm.
so other than saying that she has the project manager experience, which she probably doesn't have some capacity, because I feel like project manager is such a vague term that you could be using in a different industry. It's just a matter of how you showcase it when you're interviewing, when you're selling your personal brand, and be able to translate that into her new positional, like her new personal brand. So once she's working on that, and there's different programs that she could look into, which we do research together to figure out what within her proximity and geographic location and what works for her schedule in order to upgrade those skill sets. And I do a lot of recommendation and guidance, and it's up to her to do her homework to figure out what. Again, the onus is on them, right? I'm not
Yep.
making anybody here. I provide all my recommendation to be able to help her and motivate her and guide her, and put the onus on her. So there's a lot of accountability when I'm talking to clients who are trying to get stuck, because at the end of the day, it's your career. It comes down to how much you want to get unstuck and how quickly you want to.
Hmm.
So making sure that she, does her own research and be able to upgrade those skills essentially, and taking a further step essentially, and looking to the program, connecting with the coordinator if if it's at the institutions, or if it's the program or so, then actually taking action. So
Hmm.
we know about with lip services and we know about taking action. So once you say you're going to do all this, okay, I want to see proof you're doing it.
Right.
So and that's basically the theme of the program, taking action. So the onus is on them rather than providing me lip services. Because at the end of the day, after the 8-week program, you're gonna set you free. I'm not gonna be there. I'm gonna be there to guide you, like in some ways, but I'm not gonna be there to, you know,
Kind of hold your hand.
exactly.
Yeah.
So walking them through the process, and so essentially, the breakdown my program. That's the beginning stage, which is very important because it's established the foundation of what they would foresee working with me would be like. Like that's more in depth, and then we start working on the collaterals. So when we have an idea of what her ideal position or career path, at least have an idea. Like you're not gonna be in that. Maybe she make another pivot or so.
Hmm.
So in
Hmm.
that case, then she would work on your resume. So I give her like the tools and resources how to build the foundation of your resume. Um, and you being a talent acquisition yourself, you've probably seen a whole range of
Yeah.
different
Yep.
resumes.
Yep.
The one on Canva, those being circulating. Yeah, and yeah. So, anyways, so teaching her the basic on how to build her own resume, tailor her resume, what keywords to look for, give her all the tools how to do that. And now we're not just building a resume based on her old resumes; we're building a resume based on her new branding. So we're going
Mm.
to position ourselves as a project coordinator, specialist,
Hmm.
whichever directions that we feel that's going to be good as a stepping stone. Ideally, probably a coordinator versus a manager. So using that as a stepping stone and rebuilding her personal brand in that sense, and just giving her the tools and letting her doing it. And essentially, at the end of the beginning of next session, I would just go through and do a homework checkup, essentially, just to make sure that they complete their work that's assigned for the accountability purposes, and then that's how the programs essentially goes on.
So for the folks that are watching now, and I don't want to go too in depth because you're giving away a lot of your program, and I so appreciate. They're like, okay, I can really see what it's going to be like working with Linda. If you have questions on how to get unstuck, go ahead and throw those in the chat, and I'll field those to Linda. So as you're unpacking, the process and peeling back the onion, are you seeing folks getting stuck maybe because fear of transition, or is there any imposter syndrome that peaks its ugly head in that conversation? Because you can get a wide variety of reasons why someone wants to make a transition from an industry, and I want to stay on that topic because that's a big one we've
Mhm.
seen a lot of recently. um, what are some unique things that you may have come across? You were like, oh, okay, well, this is a rare reason, and how do we overcome those types of things?
I find that I, fear, like you mentioned, fear is a huge thing, but I feel like
Mm,
the confident be able to think if I was to make a move, will I need, like you mentioned, take a pay cut? Will I need to take step back on my career? Will I need to make a lot of sacrifices?
mm,
So there's going to be a lot on the table for different people at different stage, because if you got a family you got to raise, you got loans to pay off, you are further in your career and you're thinking, I'm going to have now 10 years to retirement. Why am I going to bother transitioning now? I get a whole whack of mixed bags there, as you see. But I think, to come back to your questions, it's fear and lack of motivation.
mhm,
Um, and I think, and I'll talk a lot about this especially in IG, about toxic bosses. And I feel like a lot of, and I'm a victim of this as well, just having bosses feel that, not empowering you, especially when you're entering a new role or beginning your career or beginning a different career path, when you're making a career pivot. There's a lot of bosses out there who are not really good bosses, and they feel the entrapment. The employee may feel the entrapment of, like, I'm not going to be able to leave because he or she not very supportive.
mhm.
It's just a lot of awful bosses out there. So the fear of making that move but not having that support and encouragement. And I'm telling bosses should be like, hey, you found that job, go ahead and get that job. And there's going to be those rare bosses who empower you to take on new opportunity. Obviously, they don't want to lose a headcount.
Right.
But there is people out there who just feel that they are not motivated and have the confidence or the ability to get remove themselves from that situation. And I feel like because of the lack of confidence and not feeling that they have the ability, the capability to make that transition, just because you know with what's going on right now, there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And managers, whether you have a good relationship or not, they play a role in your confidence a lot, especially if you look up to them or they've been so great to you in the beginning, and all of a sudden you feel this entrapment, right? So I think just the fear and the lack of confidence just to make that move, and just not knowing how to navigate through the
Hmm.
lows of your career as well as the highs. So just figuring it out, and not having, I always talk about having a mentor in your career at different stages of your career. It doesn't matter if you're 20 years or you're just fresh out of school. Like, having a mentor is so important. Like, I'm part of HR professional association here in Canada as a licensed HR professional, and I've mentored a lot of HR students, different stages of career, not just fresh out of school, but in the mid level of their career too. And I find that a lot of students, or sorry, a lot of students, a lot of younger folks
Hmm.
feel like they're at a loss. Whether, and especially in HR, you think you have a more of a you're perceived to have more of a defined career path, but sometimes in HR, just like there. So having a mentor, whether it's within your industry or just someone who's more senior to you, and having that ability just kind of bounce ideas off, and networking, and just be able to figure out what is it you want to do next, and get over that fear, because it's going to take more than one conversation. Having that mentor and committing yourself to having that conversation with that mentor, every 2 weeks, or at least once a month, to keep yourself accountable, and keep each other's on tabs. Because for the mentor, there is beneficial for having the mentee, because you
Hmm.
obviously
Hmm.
you feel like I'm able to help the younger generation, or like someone who needs guidance. That's how I least that's how what I got involved in mentoring as well. But helping them, building that confidence to get over the fear to make that move, is such a huge factor across all my clients, and I see that's a common theme.
Well, I mean, that is a very interesting point that you don't hear a lot about, and I want to emphasize that, both for anyone who's listening and will catch the replay that are in a position of management, that it's almost like you can compare it to a bad relationship, right? It's, do I make the shift because this toxic relationship here at company A, am I going to get that at company B? I don't know. I'm fearful of, like you said, making the leap, because is it the same everywhere? So that's very interesting to see that folks are sharing that, to say, hey, I'm scared to leave, but I'm not getting empowerment. I'm not getting support. What's the point? If I'm going to leave, how do I know I'm not going to get the same thing there? I could have stayed here, and I'm 10 years in, and I have, some tenure or whatever, some benefits, etc., built up. That's a unique point of view. That's interesting.
Mhm.
That's really, really interesting. So managers, empower your people, right?
Yes,
Whether
because
to move
it's
up
a
or
whole
move out.
lot.
Awesome, awesome. So I want to be mindful of the time. With that, what are some, you touched on a little bit, but any personal journey that you can share to where you found yourself kind of like, yes, I need to do this to get myself unstuck. Yes, I have these skills. Why not? Why am I in this headspace? I need to shift my mindset. Anything that you've gone through, because you said you've been through a few layoffs, as have I, me as well. So I
Mhm.
know that space. But any personal journeys you can share that'll hit home with some folks.
Of course. Yeah, so I mentioned, yeah, I've been laid off a few times. And at first, I mean, those who impacted with the first few layoffs is going to be shocked, because they're like, what did I do wrong? I thought I'm like, walking on water, or, essentially it's such a great employee of the month, or whoever you say you think you are. So the fact that, like, for personal experience, for mine, When I first experienced layoff, I was shocked. I was actually, and I shared this before, I was coming back from maternity leave.
Mm,
This was with my first daughter. And and I think being a woman who is impacted by this has speaks, and I'm sure that, and I when I brought up the story on social media, a lot of women have reached out to me too because something that people talk about but don't share. And I'm all about sharing my story to help someone else. I think that's
mhm.
why I started my business too, just based on the stories that I've shared. And so back to that, when I got laid off after I came back from maternity leave, I was shocked. I was, wow. I felt like, what else could I be doing in my life? Like, obviously, I have a newborn, and HR is all I know. I thought that's all I knew. So I felt really stuck. I'm like, okay, so what can I do at that point in my career? And it took me a couple of months to really assess, is this, I mean, to really assess that situation. Was it something that I really enjoyed doing? HR has always been my bread and butter, but
Right.
the industry itself, toxic manager I had, the people I work with was great. It's just the manager and the environment was just very toxic. But I toughed it out because I felt like I could continue proving myself. And that's the naive part of me thinking, I tough it out. My manager's going to see that I'm a shining star one day. Um,
Mm,
Look at that. Came back, next one out. So that's the story that I really want to share with people that, when it comes to those kind of decisions, it's tough decisions, but it's not personal. I would imagine they've, at the time they're doing recovery restructuring. So I was the next one out and they were able to hire upper HR professional. But with that said, I took it personal because especially if someone who's having impacted, someone's come from maternity leave and kids are expensive, right? So we know that I took a really hard hit, but I didn't jump back into the job market right away because I was very fortunate, obviously given a nice severance package, but I was able to really take this opportunity to assess the situation and
mm,
really think about, is that the industry I want to go back in? Is that the career path I want to go back in? Because I was burnt out working. To give you a bit of more tech context, I was the only HR manager for a facility of 200 people running the whole show. And it was a lot of work.
mhm.
And that was a unionized work environment too. So it was super busy. But I figured, okay, that wasn't the environment I want to go back into. So it took 2, 3 months off, did some traveling, and be able to really assess, okay, this is the opportunity to make a career move, not dictated by my employer, to get unstuck from my situation and not be entrapped into those type of environment. Took my time, be able to land my next career and be able to find the flexibility in the next career that I was able
Mhm.
to land. And I mean, the silver lining behind all this is, obviously, unfortunately, I was laid off, but the fact that I was able to take 2, 3 months off just to kind of really assess and gather my thoughts, because emotionally, we say it's okay, but we really got to be able to tell ourselves, are we really emotional okay? Are we able to make the next career move? And talking to a lot of people out there at the moment and reaching out to my mentor, she gave me a lot of support and maybe a lot of guidance that this is your opportunity to look for something that you really want.
Mhm.
Now you have another mouth to feed, another person in the picture. What can you do to be able to provide that flexibility and that balance? Having a family and all. So.
Yeah. No, go
Mhm.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So for anybody out there who's been impacted recently or currently going through that right now, I really want to stress that ability is just a matter of your timing to find what's right for you and just finding more a purposeful career and be able to utilize this opportunity to get back out there. And it really gave me a sense of mind to be able to do that and tap into another industry.
That's
Mhm.
that's really good. I love the way that you again unpack. You start off unpacking and diving deep before really tackling some of the mechanics of it, so they fully understand where they're at, because there can be some emotional stuff that pop up
Yeah.
in that conversation to where now you're putting on almost like a therapist hat and be like, whoa, okay, we didn't know this. So are you sure you're ready mentally? Are you prepared to make the switch? Right. You don't know what's on the other side of that of that transition until you get there. So love that about you. So uh here's a last question for you.
Okay.
Um when it comes to, well, actually, go break down the different elements of your coaching, because you do an 8 week course, but you also do resume, LinkedIn, and what else?
Oh yeah, of course. So the 8 week course is 8 week private coaching
Hmm.
program with daily homework. Not daily, sorry, weekly. I should say weekly homework. So yeah, so the 8 week program is my signature program. Is called your next your roadmap to career success program. And then I do offer power hours. So essentially, my power hours typically very popular towards the end of the year and beginning or towards the end of the year, just because there's a lot of performance reviews
Hmm.
that's going on, and people want to come in and want to be empowered, want to be able to set them up for success. So my Power Hour essentially creates a customized action program for my clients. Recently, I had a client who wanted to. Who felt like she deserved a promotion, a raise, and all that. She felt she was looked over during the pandemic, and she was just doing everybody's work because people were leaving and being laid off left, right, and center. So she's collecting all the pieces, and she just felt like she deserved more. So I, took all that information during consult and was able to build her a 5 step action plan. So this is more of a collaborative approach. It's not just her or not just my work. It's a collaborative approach. She provided me the details. I provide her a structured 5 step program or 5 step action plan, and be able to and be able to help her how to facilitate that and just essentially build a case when you
Mm.
are presenting yourself during a performance review or just a conversation with your manager. And typically women that I've worked with feel I deserve a raise or I deserve a promotion, but they didn't need to build a case around it. So how do we find facts, be able to support your case, internal facts and external facts? So just helping them having conversations around difficult topics. So performance review, anything along negotiation. I find that a lot of women are more timid. They're more reserved. So I want to
Hmm.
be
Hmm.
able to empower them. Here, this is the 5 step action plan. This is what you're going to help me fill in, and we can execute it. And then just do a quick mock session with them as well. So that's my power hour. On top of that, I do provide ad hoc resume services, LinkedIn optimization, and interview prep. Like I love interview prepping. Obviously, background recruiting.
Yep.
Yeah, so interview prepping is something that I really get to teach them the know-hows and the tricks and how to really empower them to shine during the interview. Because we all get bogged down when these questions like, "Tell me about yourself," "Tell me about your weakness," and they're like staring at a deer like, "Well, how do I answer that?" And you obviously can relate, Orlando.
Yep.
Like, people giving me like 7, 8 minute answers to those questions. I'm just like,
Yes.
whoo, next
I'm
client,
snoozing.
next
You're
candidate.
like,
Yeah. Yeah,
well,
no. So how to really refine and kind of contract the response
mhm.
and really hitting the key points. So interview prepping is definitely an area of my interest. And
Love it. I say sometimes when I used to coach folks is if you respond to a question and there's no follow up question to it, you pretty much answered it pretty well as long as you structured it, like you said, you structured it right. But if an interviewer is saying, "Oh, tell me more and tell me more," I look at that as if you didn't provide enough detail in the initial. So they're like, yeah, dig a little deeper, and then that kind of counts against you. Like he or she didn't answer the question initially, so they're like, are they paying attention or not listening? Do they not,
yeah,
how to respond well? So again, I love it's just a testament to the detail and how you provide your coaching. So it's very, very structured. So for folks again that are listening, you absolutely want to partner with Linda. So where can folks find you? Grab your program. Tell them where your IG is because they can get a wealth of information from there
yes.
as well.
Of course, I'm on LinkedIn. That's how we connected, Orlando. Instagram, my handle is Your Next Career with Linda. Lots of exciting free content on career advice and my personal story that we discussed here. And yeah, I'm also on TikTok as well. A lot of my content on my other platforms are more reels. So a lot of I was talking to Orlando earlier about how like I try to make my content more engaging and more
Mhm.
humorous in a way, but because at the end of the day, I feel like my community enjoys this type of content and they more absorb the material. So that's how I was able to be able to provide content that way, just through a lot of short content, short videos, and through a lot of reels. So yeah,
Love it.
and also sorry, and then
Okay.
also my website's www.yournextcareerwithlina.com. That's where you find more details about my programs, some of the services I offer, and a little bit about me as well. Mhm.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Linda. Reaching out again. I think I came across you first on IG because
Oh,
some of the followers that I know I had them on the guest. I was like, oh, who's this? And then started looking through the feed. I was like, good advice, good advice. And then I was like, let me see if she's on LinkedIn. Connected on LinkedIn. So, but absolutely, thank you so much for your expertise, your detail in this conversation alone. I believe it was a coaching session for someone, right? They got a close up. If you wasn't taking notes, folks, I don't know what you were doing, but you pretty much got coached just now on your next career with Linda. So thank you again so much. Any last, well, one of the questions I do ask is, what's your daily kind of personal mantra that gets you up every day to make you do what you do now?
I would say just knowing that get me up every day. So I would just say essentially know that I have a role that I play, whether
Mhm.
it's a personal role as a wife, mother, daughter, or as professionally as being in the coaching space, be able to help somebody and be an important role, being an impact, um, and be able to help others in that kind of way. So I feel like whether it's a personal level, whether it's professional level, I greatly want to be able to help make an impact and be able to help them in their lives in that way. So that's what I guess gets me up every day, making a difference in people's lives.
I love it.
Yeah.
You have a role to play. I
Yes.
love it. I love it. Thank you so much again, Linda.
Thank
I'm
you
gonna
so
close this
much.
out with a quick video, but folks, stay tuned, connect, share her content. I'm sure she'll answer any question for you. Thank you so much again, Linda.
Thank you so much for having me.